Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. A few days ago, I sat down with my good friend Willem Verbeeck and we recorded a new episode of the Photo Breakdown. If you're not familiar with Willem, you definitely should get familiar. He's got a great channel here on YouTube all about film photography and he's been killing it lately. So over the last few months, we've kind of gotten to know each other a lot better and become pretty good friends, and this is the first time we've been able to actually work on something together. So I'm super excited about it, and I'm not going to go on a long tangent right now because we've got a really long conversation, so let's just get right to it. So Willem, thanks for being here, dude. I appreciate having you on the show.
What up, dude? I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's been a long time coming, man. We've been talking about doing something for a while, and kind of the case when it comes to doing any kind of collaboration with people, the location can be a bit of an issue since I'm out here surrounded by the cornfields, dude.
Oh my god, dude. If you were here, I feel like we would have cranked out 5 videos already.
Yeah, 100%. So the whole idea behind having you on the Photo Breakdown, you've been putting out a lot of new work, some new projects you're currently working on, and we were just kind of talking about it, and I thought it would be a perfect time to kind of have you on the show, talk a little bit about some of this stuff that you're currently working on, and just kind of give people a little bit more kind of insight as to, you know, what it was you were shooting, what kind of thought process you were going through, and everything like that, man. So I guess we can just get started here. You sent over a handful of photos, and I've got all your photos right here in front of me, and there's a lot that I want to dig into. This photo, this was in one of your videos, wasn't it? The long exposure at night one? Okay, because I remember seeing that one and being like, damn, I don't know the story behind any of this. I don't know what this building is. I don't know any context, but like, that just drew me in right away. It's the only light coming through there, and it's just like you kind of framed it underneath, you know, the trees and everything. It's I was all about this one, man. So tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I was out shooting for that nighttime video, and well, first of all, it's funny, like the balance between when am I making serious photos and when am I making YouTube videos. And sometimes a photo I make in a YouTube video becomes like a photo that I like, you know, whether it was to demonstrate something, but it actually turns out to be something more than just like functioning for that video.
Right.
This was one of those. There's a lot about this photo. I took it because it started to pour and we hid under this tree. And then I saw that light in the distance, and this was one of those things that was like so insanely weird to meter. Like, how do you even do this? You know, that super dark foreground and like that one really bright spot of light. So I shot this in a couple different ways. I think this one's technically underexposed, but I like how dark it is. It just feels, you know, it feels like it's that one little isolated window. What's going on there?
Well, yeah. You know, it's like you said, it looks a little dark. It looks underexposed, but you like how dark it is. But like, dude, you shot this at night. It should look dark. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Sometimes people kind of trip on that, and they'll think like, well, you know, it's not bright enough or things. And you might be you could go for a look where you're wanting to like almost kind of change the way it might look to your eye, you know. But at the same time, like this feels like this feels natural. You know what I mean? The way the light is and the way you exposed it, it feels. I don't know, man. It's got this like Halloween kind of vibe to it, and I'm super into that. Yeah, I really. What building is that? Do you know what building that is? Like, what kind of facility?
I don't. We were taking photos of this Burger King that I've taken photos of a couple times, and I like how distant it is. You know, there's like the trees make a layer between this weird, creepy building that's in the distance and where I was standing. I think if those trees really make the photo, they're kind of like the separation there.
For sure,
but I also like the motion blur that's going on, and like it adds a little movement, but it's still a still life. So
yeah, it's got this really cool like voyeur kind of feel to it. Like I said, the first thing that came to mind was like it feels like a Halloween kind of photo, and I'm picturing like the old hospital and the old Halloween films, and like the second one, like that was like one of the first things that came to mind. That's super rad, man.
That's so funny. That. Yeah.
But you know, speaking of that though, like you kind of talked about it, it is interesting. I try and explain that to a lot of people that when you're shooting photos for a YouTube video for like demonstration purposes, and you're like in a different headspace. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you're
totally.
not necessarily like focusing in on something really specific for a project you're doing. You're trying to like, you're like playing two roles at once, and it can be kind of hard to like disconnect at times, I think. Do you feel the same way when you're out shooting?
Totally. And like also, there's also the time when you're out shooting real photos and you want to document it too, but you don't want the documenting to get in the way of the making the good photos. So
Exactly,
it's always
dude.
an interesting dynamic. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
it's tough, man, and I try and explain that to people, but I think
Yeah.
unless you like do it yourself, you don't really understand. Like, it's hard. It's like you're working with like two different sides of your brain almost. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah. These photos here with this purple car in front of the house, you've got a few different angles of this here, and I'm really interested to hear a little bit more about kind of the thought process into, as you were shooting, did you start close up and then work your way back? Was it kind of a mix of the two? Tell me a little bit about this.
Yeah, this was like one of those. This was really a realization for me. Like I almost, well, actually, I didn't even have film to shoot this with because I shot so much already during this day. And my friend Jimmy, who I always talk about, gave me a roll of film to shoot this. So I'm super grateful for that because there's like 3 photos on this roll that I would consider like good photos, which is rare.
Yeah.
Dude, we came around this house. It was like we were super tired, and I just saw this, and all of a sudden, like that energy came back, and that desire to photograph came back when I saw that car. So the first photo I took was the car. It's kind of the more green photo. It's the brightest of them all. It's the car where it's the only photo where you see the front of the car.
Right.
Because that was the direction we were walking in. So immediately I was like, okay, without even turning the corner yet, without even like looking through the scene, I immediately took this. And I was like, okay, this car is insane. And then I walked further, and then I got to the corner of the house. And in the first ones, like the light was still too bright, but it's hard to realize that when you're shooting because, you have no idea what a long exposure is going to
That color, that color is going to shift a little bit the longer you go.
Yeah. So I took 2 photos of that house with the car.
Yeah.
Then went around the corner to take that other photo, which I guess we can talk about in a second.
Yeah.
And then came back to the car when it was a little darker. And that's why in the second one, or in the second set, the windows are so much more like
really vibrant.
And the sky is bluer.
Yeah,
the shadows are more interesting.
I was going to say, then it was probably just, I'm guessing like maybe 10 minutes between the different sets. Like, that's how quick that stuff changes, dude.
It totally was, yeah.
And it's so interesting, too, the way, like, even if you just look at just the first set alone, the first frame that you took, just shooting in that direction, kind of not necessarily with the sun going down behind you, but it was just off to the side, and it has such a different feel to it. Like,
yeah, totally.
The sky obviously looks completely different based on where the sun is. There's a lot more warmth there, and it just, it's totally different than just simply, making like a 45-degree turn, and then all of a sudden it looks and feels completely different. So
totally,
yeah, man, it's good to shoot multiple ways and have options, and I know that like with film, especially, this is what, 6/7, and so you've got 10 shots. People can be pretty conservative in how much they're shooting, but this goes to show,
not here.
Yeah, dude, you got to go for it, man.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you're there. It's the right time, it's the right light, it's the right subject. You might as well spend a little bit more money to get that photo right,
That's what I was about to say. Get your money worth, dude.
Yeah, exactly. It costs a lot more to go back there than it does to take a couple more frames. So.
Exactly. Yeah, dude. And like I said, a 10-minute difference, and that second set where it just glows, man, that's so rad. I love that. But
even for like a still scene, it's crazy how much there is a right time to shoot it.
Oh yeah, it's just for sure.
This house isn't moving, but 10 minutes difference makes so much of a change to the photo.
Yeah, a ton. And now, whenever you walked between those two sets, you shot the photos kind of. It looks like it's going back between these houses, and there's a ton of
Yeah.
layers here. This one, I remember when you first sent me a handful of these photos. This was one of them that really stood out, and that I was like, okay, that one for sure is just money. I love the first one, and I know you've got two different takes here, and I think you prefer the first one as well. I know what I like about the first one more, so first I'll let you tell me kind of about the photos and what it is about the first one that you like the most, you know?
Well, the first one, there's a couple things that I like more. It's the fact that the second window on the house in the way back is visible as well. It's not in the first one. So you have 3 glowing windows in the first photo. And then also just the fact that those 2 houses make a frame within a frame, kind of.
Yeah.
So, it's just a little more like... I like that feeling because technically in this project, I'm trying to like make photos that are looking back on the time that I grew up in this place. And whenever you have a photo that feels a little bit more distant, it has that feeling that you're like, that I'm looking back on that time. Whereas like the next photo feels like I'm in that scene. Whereas the first one is just like looking more at it from a distance.
Yeah, like from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
That's exactly the first photo we talked about. That was kind of what I was saying with, that distance there. It feels like you're not connected in a way. You're like peeking through those trees, you know what I mean? With the doorway down there, like it's got a cool feel. So I like that as well. It feels more distant, and also just from a composition point, like the rooftops, like the gutters of the 2 buildings on the sides are like perfectly pointing in towards the center, just the same with like the path from the bottom there. Like everything is just lining to where those lit up windows are, dude. And it just like, yeah, this one.
I didn't even think about it that way, but that's really interesting too. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. And that's like one of my favorite things about people talking back and forth about their photos, because like people will tell me stuff about my photos that I wasn't even on the radar, you know what I mean? But that to me, it just feels like it's like pulling you in a way. Whereas the other one, like you said, it just feels like you're kind of standing there. This one, there's like movement kind of like going in towards it. It's super good, man. I love
those classic 1-point perspective lines, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, dude. Like it feels complete. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like you've built a frame around the photo, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Yeah, I love that.
Glad to hear. Yeah, also, I love reflections in windows. This is something I realized on this trip. Like, the reflections that happen in the windows of houses are so insane because the glass, like, distorts everything. And, on the 2 windows on the side, you can kind of see that, too. Like,
yeah,
you can just see these warped house panels. Like, even if it doesn't, you can't really make out what exactly you're looking at. Like, it's just this weird mosaic tile looking glass that like,
yeah. Well, it's cool because with like the siding of all the houses, you have all these lines, and so as those get distorted, it looks like a funhouse mirror type thing in a way. You know what I mean? That's so rad. And actually, speaking of windows, one of the photos you sent over that I had to ask you about is the photo of this house where at first I looked at it and I was just like, oh, this is rad. Like, I love the color here. This feels like classic Americana type color. And then I realized in the window is SpongeBob in the window with like, and the fact that it's not just like a SpongeBob like doll or blow up or whatever it is, but the fact that it's just his eyes like peeking over through the window, dude, that is gold. And it's such a like, I love subtlety in things like this. You know what I mean? It's not you didn't zoom in and get a close-up shot. It's pretty far back, and you have to look at it for a second, and that's what makes it so good. You know what I mean? So, did you notice that right off the bat, or?
Yeah, that's what like drew me to take that photo. I was like walking across, and I was kind of startled because I was like, "Oh my god! Like, what's looking at me across the road right there?" And then it was SpongeBob, and I was like, "I got to take this photo." I think this is my first real like funny photo too. Like
Yeah.
there's a little bit of humor in that, and
I love it, dude.
just connecting to like the ideas of childhood, like SpongeBob is great. And
Yeah, dude. I love that, man. And that stood out to me too, because I was like, that humor in there, it stood out amongst a lot of these, you know, like you have a really good way of, I feel like putting things, like adding a sense of time and like, you know, I kind of mentioned one of the photos that we'll talk about in a bit. It just made me think of like the Sandlot and like that era. You know what I mean? And I feel like you have a good way of putting that into the photos, and that's what I'm always looking for whenever I see your work. And then this one just stood out as like, oh, dude, that's hilarious. Like that's amazing, and that's like one of my favorite things about photography is when people put humor into it. So I was so stoked to see this because it still feels like your work. You know what I mean? It looks consistent, and
That's
like I
cool.
said,
Yeah.
you didn't just like zoom in on just the SpongeBob thing. It
Yeah,
feels like
yeah.
one of your photos with a little touch in there, and it's so subtle, dude. I love it.
Super funny. Thanks, dude.
So we kind of talked about it, but these photos here of this kid in the backyard playing baseball. At first, it was like I just loved the way that the houses look. It just feels super everyday, you know, everyday neighborhood kind of shot. You know what I mean? Like from the landscaping out front, the siding on the houses, and it was just like it just felt natural, you know what I mean? And it felt familiar, and I loved the kind of like the subframing of the window where you have the reflection of the houses in that window as well. I loved all of that, and then I realized in the distance was the kid in the backyard swinging the baseball bat, and that for me, I was just like, there it is, dude. That was like, it's such a subtle piece to it, and it's not like glaring at you right in the center of attention, but it adds a ton, dude. And that's the one I told you. It made me think of it just made me think of the Sandlot, dude. I love that. So how did you kind of like come across this one and shoot it?
Thanks, dude. Yeah, it was pretty much exactly how you explained it, funny enough. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, look at these two houses, you know. And I think I was with my friend Jimmy, and he's like, oh, there's people back there. And then I just waited for this kid to swing the ball and, like, took the frame right on his swing, you know, and his leg is up and his arm is out.
Yeah.
And, like, this photo is not as sharp as it could be, but at this point I don't care because I like what's going on. And, you know, it is like you said, it's like the houses and the window reflection, plants, and then you see the kid. And I like that kid is somebody specific, but it could be, you know, me or you when we were 10 years old.
Exactly.
Playing baseball as well, you know?
Yeah, dude. And so, and you shot another one as well, kind of further over. Did you shoot this one before you saw the kid back there, or like before you saw people, or did you just shoot another one while you were there?
I took this after
Yeah.
the first one, but
Yeah.
I was actually waiting for him to come back.
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for him to come back. I was like, this, you know, ideally I do like this framing a little bit better,
Yeah.
but because he would have been right in the center.
Right, right.
But we realized they went away, so I
Yeah,
still took
yeah.
it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's
No,
not
dude,
the same without the kid, you know?
Yeah, no, that's the thing, man. The kid makes it for sure. And honestly, I think I like that. It's everybody has their own takes on it, which is what makes it interesting. But I think I like the composition of the one with the kid in it even more too. So it's
Good,
interesting.
good.
Like I don't know what. And honestly, I think part of it is, again, like I'm always looking at different lines, and the line of the roof on the right is just like going straight down towards where the kid is, and it just like it leads you right to it. Because at first, like I didn't notice it, but then once you see the kid, it's just like it feels like, oh yeah, of course that's the subject of the photo, you know. So
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you, dude. You know, it's funny making a photo like this because we post so much on Instagram, and this is never a photo that would do good on Instagram because on Instagram you would swipe right by the kid.
Yeah.
But this is a photo that I like, you know, and I'd like to print somewhere one day because it's like, it's, you know, there's more to it than the surface value. It's like once you see that kid, the dynamic of things changes, and like
Yeah.
you would scroll right past that.
That's one thing that I've been like really thinking about a lot lately is how many photos are we scrolling by, not thinking twice about them, that if they were on a gallery wall, they would have stopped us in our tracks, you know? Like,
Yeah, true.
there's something to be said for that. And I don't know, man. It's in a way, it's kind of a shame, because you think how many people are making incredible work that aren't getting the recognition maybe that they should, or the attention that they should, because their work isn't translating well with the platform of social media. You know what I mean? It's interesting to see kind of like how that will affect things moving forward for, you know, the future legends of photography.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in a way, like, how many people, I guess it would be interesting to study the idea of, does it work in reverse as well, where a photo that looks great on Instagram, if you blow it up, does it lose, you know what I mean? Like, I've never
100%.
thought about yeah, like I've never thought about that until literally just now, but I wonder if that's the case, where there are photos that look great on a mobile device and it fits nicely in this little tiny frame, whereas if you put it on a gallery wall, like, does it hold up as much? I don't know. And it totally might, but it'd be interesting just to kind of think about that and explore that a little bit.
I totally feel you on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's weird, man.
it's where the art world meets the social media world. You know, they don't connect. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. So this one starts with just being like drawn to color. So then I notice the colors and I try to find a way of framing things up. And I do like this one because I compose a lot of my photos like very center weighted, but this one's not center weighted at all. The center actually has nothing in it. It's just that pink.
Yeah.
And I like little details like the way the window lines up with the two poles, and like just meticulously framing things like that, and having the bird in the top left corner.
Yeah.
And the shadows from things, and could be home, you know. This could be a photo that's home to somebody, and like I'm curious about who lives here and what they do, and
it's
so there's
really,
a lot of
like,
curiosities like that too. But.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, it makes you just wonder about the people that's like one of my favorite things about photos of just everyday houses, is like just thinking about the people that might live there, and you know, things like that. But this photo just has a really like inviting kind of feel, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like a comfortable, I don't know, it's a safe house, you know what I mean? Like, it feels,
is, yeah. I don't know this house, but it feels like it's screaming welcome home to me.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's just got this really inviting kind of feel to it. And I think the time of day as well, like, you know, the way the sun is hitting the guardrail there, like next to the stairs, it just has this sort of like end of the day, coming home, like super welcoming kind of feel to it. I love that. And then you also shot this second photo just of, you know, the front window there. And this one definitely feels different for you. You know what I mean? Like, do you normally shoot kind of second angles like this, where you're in a little bit tighter? Because this one, it you know, it feels a lot tighter than what you normally like to shoot. And there isn't as much isn't as much foreground or, you know, outside areas in the frame. So it just feels a little bit more, you know, kind of tight in there. Do you normally shoot that kind of stuff while you're out shooting as well? Or was this just sort of a spur of the moment kind of thing?
Well, one of the things that stuck with me from school was a teacher going like, you compose everything exactly the same and it's really boring.
Really?
And I was like, that's true. It's so true. Like, that's why I love critiques, because somebody will trash you and then you're like, wait, this is so true though. So I've just been experimenting with ways of composing, and I just wanted to take a photo of a window.
Right.
I knew that was something I wanted to photograph, like just a straight on window. And again, the reflections caught my eye, which I was talking about earlier. And then the colors and the feeling, but that's secondary for me in this photo.
It looks different for you for like your kind of work. So it's interesting to hear that was kind of, you know, part of it, you know, with the critique and things like that. But I think, you know, everyone has their way of shooting. And I think it's easy to just pass off any kind of critique as like, well, that's just how I shoot. You know what I mean? Like, even if it is the way you shoot, and even if you disagree with the critique, if someone were to say that to me, I would want to just at least try the other ways. You know what I mean? And you personally, like, do you like that shot more, or do you like your original frame more?
I don't know. I think they're just different. Like, they're not really interchangeable. They have very different purposes.
That's true, too. Yeah. See, me personally, I like the original take more because I think that having the yard there more in the frame, the neighbor's house right next to it, kind of creeping into the frame, I feel like that kind of stuff adds to it. But, yeah, it's just interesting. I think people are quick to dismiss any kind of critique because, people are sensitive, and people might think like, well, you just don't understand it then, or that's what I'm going for, But yeah, just the sake of practicing and trying out different stuff, man, that's a good thing. Critique is a good thing.
Dude, critique is such a good thing. Like, honest, harsh critiques, not hate, but honest, harsh critiques are the best thing. And they're also the hardest to find. Like, it's hard for somebody to be like, yo, this kind of sucks, and here's why.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to hear that, obviously. It's not like you look forward to being told, like, hey, this sucks, but it's good.
Well, at this point, I kind of do, because every time somebody has said, like, hey, this is terrible, but this is why it's terrible.
Right.
It's always, like, been a ground for improving,
Yeah. Well, yeah, people sometimes don't know the difference between criticism and constructive criticism, for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If someone can explain to me like what it is they don't like about the photo or what they think doesn't work, I'm all ears. But if some people are just like, don't care, and I'm like, well, that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do anything with you telling me you don't care about the photos, so that's not helping anybody. But if you can explain and elaborate more on it, there's a lot to be learned there. Well, I want to talk about more of these, but we might have to save these for round 2, because you and I could probably go all day talking about different photos.
Not even my work, anything, man. I feel like we could sit here all day.
Yeah. I appreciate
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you jumping on here and being willing to share, all this stuff and tell me a little bit more about it. And I guess we didn't really talk about gear, but I know that that's like part of what I always bring up on the photo breakdown, because I know people will ask about it. So for a lot of these, were a lot of these the same camera, or was there kind of a mix in here?
So this was all Mamiya RZ67.
Yeah.
I've realized recently I used to carry like 35 millimeter, medium format, large format in the car, and just like having one camera, you stop worrying about all that, and you're like, okay, what do I actually want to take photos of now? Not what format do I want to shoot this on? Yeah, absolutely. You get that the option paralysis, where you're just like, you have way too many choices and you're left doing nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, like, a different format really wouldn't have changed much here. Like, if I shot this on a large format, I probably wouldn't have gotten the variation. I probably wouldn't have gotten to like the 5th photo of that car that happened to be the good one. Being able to shoot a variety of different things and taking less time thinking about what to use or anything like that, it's really freeing, man. So thanks for joining me for this episode, man, and sharing about your work and sharing some of the work itself. And this was definitely long overdue, so next time we gotta get you down here to Chillicothe sometime. Yep. Dude, thank you so much for having me. Next time we'll have you over on my side of the channel, so yeah, we gotta do something soon too. Yeah. Thanks so much, man. Yep, sounds good, man. I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Before we wrap up and go home, I do want to take a minute to thank our sponsor once again, which is Squarespace. I've personally been using Squarespace for my own website, and I've been recommending it to people for years, long before they ever actually became a sponsor of the channel, because their service is that good. They have tons of templates to choose from that all look great, and it's extremely easy to use, but even if you do run into an issue, they have award-winning 24/7 customer service that's always willing to help. If you'd like to try a free trial of Squarespace, you can do so at squarespace.com, but if you want to get signed up, I can save you 10% off your first purchase if you sign up at squarespace.com/MattDay.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation between Willem and myself. He's a great kid. He's doing a lot of great things here on YouTube, and the work itself that he's making, I'm really, really into. So I'm excited to see this project go further and just what comes of it. If you guys want to check out Willem's channel, that is going to be linked in the description below. So definitely do that. Give him your support. He's a good dude, and he's making some great videos. So if you guys have any questions or thoughts on any of this stuff that we talked about, I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. If you want to support the channel, the easiest way to do so is just by subscribing. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year. We're going to see if we can do that. And if you do want to try and support any other way, there is a link to Patreon as well. But of course, the easiest thing to do is just subscribe. So that's it for today. So I want to thank you guys for everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.